The honourable member for Hotham.
Speaker, I'm really pleased for the opportunity to participate in the MPI today because it gives me a bit of a chance to reflect on what we've seen in the last, shall we say, eventful fortnight in politics. I think I speak for most Australians when I say that those of us on this side of the House actually did not believe that this government could get any more hapless. But then someone got us to August, and the switch was flicked to craven, incompetent and, frankly, at times pretty damn weird. Now, we hear a lot in our MPIs, and the question time sort of dynamic feels a little bit jovial, Deputy Speaker, but I have to say it does not reflect the real attitude of people on this side of the House to what is happening in politics today. Because the truth is, Deputy Speaker, that we are worried. We're very worried, because what we see on the other side of the chamber is a government that has completely lost its way. Having lost its way, it has become consumed with things that are essentially meaningless to the lives of ordinary Australians, and we have seen these things that the government obsesses over from day to day, while real serious issues are affecting the lives of Australians out there in the community. Deputy Speaker, let me just run through some of the examples. One of them is this awful cabinet leaking that we have seen come out from the cabinet over previous days, and we have the Prime Minister coming out, as he does, all bluster, saying that he's going to crack down on people that leak from cabinet. And what do we see? Half an hour later, Deputy Speaker, what happens in cabinet gets leaked again. Day after day, we're seeing the lines that get sent around from the Prime Minister's office leaked out into the broader community, and all they're doing is just eating themselves apart, Deputy Speaker. But what's even probably more worrying than all this is the fact that all the while that they consume themselves with these problems, the government has no agenda. And we see it, Deputy Speaker, earlier with the leaked cabinet document, that basically the cabinet met to talk about just a few matters that weren't really that important. There was no substantive policy on the cabinet agenda, and then the last note on the cabinet agenda was that the next meeting of cabinet was to be cancelled, Deputy Speaker. And we do see that down here in the House, because we're scratching around a little bit looking for legislation that we can talk about, when all of the things that are really critical to what is happening in this country at the moment are not getting debated and discussed in this parliament, Deputy Speaker. Now, I don't want to gloss over, Deputy Speaker, one of the most awful and disappointing things we've seen in the last 2 weeks, and that is the scurrilous attempt to shut down the debate about equal marriage that should be happening today in this parliament. And we've seen the Prime Minister, who's meant to be the statesman, who's meant to be showing leadership to this country, using his power as the leader of this country to try to stymie debate in his party room, to stack the party room so that people of Australia don't get the debate that millions of them want to see in this chamber.
That's what Pine said.
Now, Deputy Speaker, the reason that this is so worrying to us as Labor people is not because we really care what sort of fights these people on the other side have between themselves, but because there are fundamental problems facing this country that are not getting the attention that they deserve. Now, Deputy Speaker, the critical problem facing this country today is unemployment. There are 800,000 Australians who are unemployed in this country today. That is an absolutely staggering figure, and any government worth their salt would spend every minute of every day trying to work out what to do with these people and how to get them back into work. Yet what do we see? Just fighting amongst themselves. Now, that's not the end of the employment problems that we have in this country, Deputy Speaker. 1 million Australians are underemployed. Another 800,000 Australians are getting the disability support pension. And, Deputy Speaker, all these problems dramatically more difficult to solve than under the when we had the global financial crisis, when global conditions were so much more challenging. Now, Deputy Speaker, we can never ever forget, when we face an employment issue in Australia, the terrible plight of young people who are unemployed. We know that when young people spend significant times out of work when they're young, they bear scars of that for their entire working life, Deputy Speaker. When we look at these young people, when they're 40 years old, if they spent significant periods unemployed in their youth, they're getting paid significantly less and have a much patchier employment record for the rest of their life. It is a scourge on this country to have so many young people unemployed, and we see across many of the people in this chamber would represent electorates where there are 20% of young people who are out of work. Now, Deputy Speaker, I feel this very acutely. When I talk to youth organisations, they tell me there are young people on their services who believe that they will never get a job. And what we have on the other side is a government that is consumed with its own particular controversies, and it's just not good enough for this country, Deputy Speaker. It's not good enough.
I thank the honourable member for